Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Carl and Rick Talk Risk. Rick,
Carl,
how are you?
awesome.
Good stuff.
Unbelievable. But then
We were
again, I'm
just,
from the East Coast of Canada. I'm a sarcastic jerk. So, there you go. Take what I say with a grain of salt.
yeah, I would say after I've taken off 2 weeks. I have in-laws in the Netherlands, so it's been an opportunity to get out of the house, do some travel, go to Paris, and I've been well fed and very little exercised. So, hmm. But it's been good. Baguettes and croissants, which I can never pronounce correctly, but I can certainly eat.
Hey, I hate to tell you, your diction's not going to put food on the table. So, as long as you can eat, that's what's important.
Yeah, that's right. But it's nice to be back. And um, we were just kidding around before this about folks coming up to you and mentioning the podcast, which was great because they really like how informal and relaxed this is. And we were kidding around that it takes a lot of effort, which of course it doesn't take much effort at all.
It
Literally,
doesn't take
we come
any
up.
effort. Come on, let's be honest.
Wait, where did we come up with our topic? Like 15 seconds ago? But anyway, I don't want to give away too much of the sausage making. But Rick, we um, we have an undying problem in risk management. And we've talked about it in many, many different ways. I would call it our marketing problem. We're not born salesmen. You don't find a lot of salespeople becoming risk managers. We're kind of nerdy. We kind of like numbers in general. Um, and a lot of people in other parts of the business and outside of the bank and insurance company and wherever else risk managers work don't know what we do. The problem is we're not very good at explaining it. Oftentimes, what I hear in my career is a lot of risk managers feel people should just know what we do. I mean, with a department of risk management, come on, and um, I turn that around. I prefer to have an internal locus of control. Like, what am I doing? What could I do differently that people could understand better? And I don't see it. I don't see us really getting out there and explaining to other people what we do and why it matters. Both of those things are kind of important, right? Um, Maybe I'll touch on one thing and then you can riff off or go in a different direction. One thing we do is respond to the regulator, and the regulator comes out with new requirements, and we read through those tenaciously and figure out exactly what they mean and how we can fulfill those requirements and make sure it's in our policies and make sure everybody's complying with it and so on. Um, and, and that avoids penalties at the end of the day. That's great. People get that. But you know what I would really like for us to convey to other people, other departments, is that we also have a conversation with the regulator and try to figure out, is this really meaningful? Is this um, uh, are we just following the black and white requirements here, or are we trying to figure out, okay, this will this has some value to the business, this has some purpose, so we focused on this, kind of follow a risk-based approach to regulation, and also push back sometimes where regulation just doesn't make sense to us, which frankly, sometimes it doesn't. Um, I don't know. I would It would be nice to say to the business, to the front office once in a while that, hey, we got these regulations. We we thought half of them didn't really apply to us, so we pushed back. We had a conversation with the regulator. Um, we no longer have to comply with some of them, or we can dial down what we do for those. But these we think we should comply with, and here's the added value to what you do frontline, I think that would be a really productive conversation. But I don't hear it happening.
Well, you got in a totally different direction. We thought that we were going to go, but
As
hey,
always.
what the hell? Okay, there's a couple of things that immediately come to mind for me. First off, we really have three legs of a stool here.
Mm.
Okay, we have the regulators, we have the front office, and we have risk management. And also, we could add a fourth leg, the general public writ large. Okay? But of those three legs, risk management, front office, and regulators, to be quite frank, everyone, and not just in this group, but everyone is self-centered. Okay? Everyone thinks the world revolves around them. And to some sense, there's a complete misunderstanding of the hopes, dreams, and fears of each of the other legs.
Mm.
Not only in what their hopes, dreams, and fears are, but of what an actual day in the life of looks like.
Right.
And, it's one thing of what an actual day in the life of a professional in one of those spheres looks like. It's another thing, and perhaps more important, what does the night, those things that have you staring at the ceiling at 2 o'clock in the morning of each of the people of the professionals in each of those other legs look like? And I think that's where we get a very important, massive disconnect.
Mm.
You also bring up what we do and why it matters, that you suck at communicating that. I would say that risk management sucks at not sucks at that, but they really suck at not asking the question, what should we do and why should it matter? Let's call spade a spade. Risk management, both financial risk management and enterprise risk management. By the way, I think this conversation holds for both of them, but the paths of disconnect are very different for each of them.
Mm.
Both of those fields are relatively young, particularly enterprise risk management, as I think of it. Financial risk management, probably a little bit more entrenched. But even the mindset between people who do enterprise risk management and financial risk management are totally, totally different. So you're in financial risk management, okay? And immediately you start with the regulator. Good God, the last person to start thinking about, in my opinion, if I'm the CEO of a major institution, financial or non-financial institution, the regulator is the last person that should be thought of when it comes to risk management,
Mm.
or at least risk management as it benefits the firm. And why it should matter because it benefits the firm. Right now, most people will say that risk management benefits the firm by keeping it out of hot water with the regulator.
Mm.
That is absolutely a disastrous objective to have, or
Yeah.
disastrous selling point. You
Yeah.
know,
It's the downside thinking that you always talk about, right, on this podcast, and
but it's
ignores
not
the
only
upside.
but not only downside. It's recognizing that the regulator has a very, very different set of objectives than the
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, boy, we're going to get angry emails about this, but most regulators would be very happy if the world stopped. Okay, if nothing got done, most regulators would be happy if everyone in the world bubble wrapped themselves, didn't have any croissants, and died of hunger within the week. Because after everyone dies, nothing else bad can happen.
Yeah. Meaning that they don't care about profit levels. They don't care about shareholder returns. They're only looking at.
They don't care about. And by the way, I'm painting things black and white when I realize that they're gray. But
Yeah.
it's not just the profit levels and shareholders, etc. It's um creating products that people need. Uh, you know, it it's not just economic benefits that corporations bring, although that's what we tend to think about. But seriously, does anyone really want to go back and be the richest person in 1800? I mean, or I realize that I'm speaking as a developed world person, okay, and I
Hmm.
realize that there's many parts of the world where people would love to be the richest person in 1800. But does anyone in the Netherlands want to go back and be the richest person in the 1800s? And maybe for a day it might be fun, but your average you know Dutch person has a life that the richest person in 1800 would could never dream of having. It would
Yeah,
be beyond their best dreams.
we're pretty
And
attached to our flush toilets, I would say.
yeah, and you know, flush toilets, like, oh my god, it's like, oh, the handle might break off and cut someone's finger. So we have to have a 40-page risk management document to make sure that the handles are non-toxic and safe. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but the truth is the richest person in 1800 would gladly trade places with the lowliest of 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 Dutch people today.
Yeah, yeah,
And so yes, organizations are exist or sorry, corporations, I'll be a little bit more precise here, exist to make a profit for shareholders. But it's that keeps innovation going. It's
yeah,
that keeps development going, that keeps progress going. Are there is there collateral effects along the way? Yes, some are positive,
yeah,
some are negative. But ultimately, risk management is there to make sure that progress goes forward with maximum of upside while minimizing the downside.
yeah, yeah. Rick, I've got a question because you know, I'm obviously in a role that deals with regulation, puts it into policies, so it's on my mind quite a lot. That's why I went in the direction I went in. But you said, the regulator's the last thing on the CEO's mind. Um, One of the ways that risk management interacts with the front line is through, we need to comply. This is how we can comply. Make sure you follow the rules. How else can risk management have those conversations, right? Because there's a limited touch points with the front office. One of them is complying with regulation. How else can we give that elevator pitch where we're saying, listen, we're here for you. And this is what we do, and this is how we can help.
Okay, but again, you're using regulation as a crutch. It's like a parent, telling their kid,
Yeah.
if you don't eat your vegetables, you get no dessert.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, yeah.
instead of taking a more proactive by eating
Yeah.
your vegetables, you will be able to win that soccer game or get on the baseball team or get the cute boy or get the cute girl to take you to go with you to the elementary school dance or get the best Valentine on Valentine's Day from them. And this is where the marketing and the sales comes in.
Mhm.
We're here for you. Like, good God, that sounds like a cheap e-card. Okay. Okay. It's demonstrating how risk management adds value. But this is where the disconnect between risk management and the front office and regulation comes into play. Because most risk managers do not have frontline experience, which ironically
Mm.
is flipped from 20 years ago, because risk management 20 years ago was a retirement home for people who had extensive front office experience, but
Yeah.
were put into risk management as their kind of pre-retirement home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But now, of course, it's all specialists. But
Yeah.
because the specialists don't have frontline experience, they can't basically do the fab selling features, advantages, benefits. They can tell the features,
Mm.
but no one buys anything on the features. It's not until you've been in the shoes of someone can you go from features to advantages to benefits. I'll give a quick example. Okay, my wife and I, way back when, were buying a car. And yes, I'm trained as a physicist. I hate buying cars. I absolutely loathe buying cars. Okay. In fact, generally, I get someone else to buy the cars. I would much rather go get root canal uh, than buy a car. So we're in this car dealership. Okay. And the salesman goes, oh, this baby's got tons of torque. And as a physicist, I'm thinking, why the hell do I need torque? I mean, seriously. I mean, is this car without torque? Uh, and I mentioned this to another salesperson, and he said, look, you need torque so you can accelerate quickly. Okay, well, we've gone from features to advantages, but I'm buying a car for my wife. She's not going to the drag strip to the best of my knowledge. Okay, she's not going to get like the tattoo and be able to,
Right.
our car accelerate faster than your car. But then the third salesman, when I brought this up, and all of a sudden, you're out of time. You're too dead. So your pod is telling you that you no longer exist.
I've got light, but everybody else has left the building, obviously, because there's nobody moving outside.
That says something about your risk department as well. But I got to get to the benefits of this so people understand.
Yeah.
So the first salesperson says torque. Second person says torque, so you can accelerate. The third salesperson, when I brought this up, said, "Oh, but you need the torque so you can accelerate quickly. But you're in New Jersey. You need to get on the turnpikes, and your wife is pregnant. Don't you want your wife to be able to accelerate with a whim so that she can meld into traffic safely for the sake of your coming child?" So there's where you go from features to advantages to benefits.
Mm.
And that's the marketing problem of risk managers. They can talk about the nerdy features of what they're doing all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Only a few of them can advance those to the advantages. But without the frontline experience, without having the empathy for either the regulators or the front office people, without that empathy, which comes from walking a mile in their shoes, you can't come up with the benefits. And it's the features, the advantages and the benefits. It's the people buy the benefits. Only the nerds buy the features.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only the first adopters will buy the features. And by the way, I have to give a shout out to Eli Lilly, who gave me a job when I was a starving physicist and taught me fab selling. But it works, and that's what's missing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because we've got really impressive tools, and I've said it many times on this podcast. I think we've got an interesting perspective on what the front office does because we get to zoom out, we get to look at the long term historical trends, we do scenario analysis. But yeah, I don't think we connect the dots very very clearly and
I don't think you even
explain
know
the benefits.
where half the dots are when
Yeah,
it comes to the front office and the regulator. It's what keeps the front office and what keeps the regulator awake at night, either from fear or from hope. By the way, a lot of times you can stay awake at night staring at the ceiling because you're so excited.
Yeah. 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 No, that okay. Well, I get what you're saying. It goes back to our conversation a couple of weeks ago that we really need a rotation program to go work in the front office and walk in their shoes because it's like you say, it just without that it's hard
But
to.
I do have to applaud your institution, which is obviously much better in rodent risk management than my institution, because in my institution, the automatic lights never go off because of all our rodents running around with signal that there are still people there. But obviously, you are doing one for our listeners and staying late at work so we can record this podcast.
At least in this office, but I have seen mice in one of the other offices, and we're hearing a funny sound at home. So funny you mentioned our furry friends. I yeah, we need more cats around the office, maybe. Anyway. All right, Rick. Good to talk to you. You've given me some takeaways. I've not heard of this fab framework before, so you've given me something to think about, and hopefully our listeners too. If you have any interesting takeaways or ways you think we can sell what we do and why it's valuable to the front office, let us know in the comments. We'd love
And
to hear
why
from
it's
you.
valuable to the regulators,
Yeah,
and
and
why
the
the
regulators.
regulators are valuable to the front office.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
triangle.
it's a triangle. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Rick. Until next time. Cheers.
Have fun, everyone.